Time now for a quick check on some of the top stories that made the news last week.
We begin with the report that the courts have commenced hearing in two separate suits filed by the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. A federal high court presided over by Justice Gabriel Kalawale last week, Wednesday, refused to grant an ex parte application brought before it by Mr. Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, seeking his reinstatement as the governor of Nigeria's Apex Bank. Justice Gabriel Kalawale, in his ruling, held that it was unsafe, judicially speaking, to embark on far-reaching interim orders without according the defendants a hearing. Hearing of the motion was then adjourned to March the 12th. In another suit before the Federal High Court in Lagos, the court adjourned till March the 21st to hear an application filed by the suspended CBN governor seeking the enforcement of his fundamental rights. On the 3rd of March, a Lagos State High Court sitting in Ikeja will rule on an application filed by a one-time Lagos socialite, Fred Ajudua, seeking the quashing of the fraud charge preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Mr. Ajudua was charged before the court for allegedly defrauding a former Chief of Army Staff, retired Lieutenant General Ishaya Bamayi, of about $5.9 million. That's about 1 billion naira. While that ruling may be given on the 3rd of March, it appears that some other businesses of the court may be further postponed if the National Executive Council of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUSUN, carries through with its plan to commence an industrial action. After a 3-day NEC meeting in Ilorin, Kwara State last week Thursday, JUSUN ordered its members to begin a warning strike from the 12th of March to the 14th. JUSUN's national president, Mustafa Adamu, who read the communique, which was signed by him and the General Secretary, Mr. Adetola, said the directive was informed by the alleged failure of government to pay directly to the heads of courts funds accruable to the state's judiciary in the Federation account. In other news outside the court, the National Judicial Council, NJC, last week Thursday, recommended the appointment of Justice Zainab Prt2 to President Goodluck Jonathan as the substantive president of the Court of Appeal. Justice Prt2 is the acting president of the court and will succeed Justice Ayo Salami, the former president of the Appellate Court. The NJC also forwarded to President Jonathan for his approval the names of 25 High Court judges from the 6 geopolitical zones for elevation to the Court of Appeal. In another statement signed by its acting director in charge of information, Mr. Sojioye, the NJC also announced the suspension of 2 judges, Justice Gladys Olotu of the Federal High Court in Abuja and Justice Ukot Inyang of an Abuja High Court on the grounds of gross misconduct. The NJC also made a recommendation for their compulsory retirement. The Council issued warnings to the presiding Justice of the Court of Appeal in Kaduna, Justice Dalatu Adamu, a judge of the High Court of Ekiti State, Justice A.A. Adeleye, and Justice D.O. Amechina of the High Court of Anambra State. On the foreign scene, 29-year-old Michael Adebolajo, the man convicted of murdering the British soldier Lee Rigby in a street in London, is to spend the rest of his life behind bars, while his accomplice, 22-year-old Michael Adebowale, was jailed for a minimum of 45 years. The defendants were found guilty of Rigby's murder on the 19th of December 2013, but their sentencing was delayed because the judge wanted to wait for clarifications about Britain's position on life sentences. And we round off with news that South African court last week Tuesday authorized the partial live broadcast of the trial of Paralympic athlete Oscar Pistorius. The trial of the 27-year-old Paralympic track star charged with killing his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp, opens on Monday, March the 3rd. Judge Dunstan Lambo said the entire audio of the trial could be broadcast, but television coverage would be limited. About 300 journalists around the world applied for access to the courtroom, which can only accommodate 80 of them.
Welcome back. The law firm of George Etomi and Partners last week celebrated 30 years of excellent service to its clients. One of the highlights of the celebration was a lecture which dwelt on the topic, Life Without Oil. We have the details in this next report. Some of the finest professionals in Nigeria have gathered in this room to discuss a very important topic, one which seeks to secure the future of the country by moving away from the over-dependence on oil. The occasion is the 30th anniversary of the law firm of George Etomi and Partners, and to celebrate what these professionals regard as 30 years of excellence is this inaugural speaker series with this important topic, Life Without Oil. The question that immediately comes to mind is, will there ever be such a life? The special guest, Governor of Lagos, Babatunde Fashola, a senior advocate of Nigeria, set the ball rolling by asking the more pertinent question of whether a better life with oil is possible for Nigeria and her people.
The answer I will offer is an emphatic yes. The road to that better life is not too difficult in my view. It requires us to eliminate corruption at all levels of the oil industry. That road to a better life therefore requires us to take developmental and life-changing infrastructure projects like the East-West Road, the second Niger Bridge, new refineries, petrochemical plants that will create economic growth and jobs out of the pipelines. In my humble view, the starting point is the urgent need to lend our voices to a resolution of the missing $20 billion. A resolution that must be in favor of the Nigerian people. If you know how much $20 billion can do to clean up the environment in the Niger Delta and clean up the water pollution in Alimosho, in Diamond Estate, and in Barua, you will not keep quiet. All you need to say is simple. Ask the question, what happened to $20 billion?
That is another question this topic chose up, and many more followed, with the professionals here giving more deep insights and offering some solutions.
Today, Nigeria budgets at $79, $78 a barrel. What's happened to the difference between 79 and 110 is a question we should all be asking.
A lot of our problem really has to do with the fact that from the onset, we have not had a good framework within the country. The policy legal frameworks have been wrong, and they have been geared towards optimizing revenue today at the expense of every other thing.
We need to work on our population. Nobody is talking about it. Last year, it's estimated that we added 4 million naira. No matter how rich a nation can be, there's only so much you can do with that kind of teeming population. There's only a limit to the amount of infrastructure, if we're serious in developing that infrastructure, that we can do. I think population needs to be on the table.
There's clearly a need to think outside the box, and two young entrepreneurs shared their experiences on how they started businesses outside of the oil base.
If you just go on the internet and search for Taobao villages, it's basically stopped or slowed down urbanization in many instances. So it's a model of e-commerce where anybody can come onto a marketplace, list their wares, whether those wares are agricultural produce like alligator pepper or apparel or whatever it is, and sell and have access to a vast market and not need the capital to set up a shop and hire people. And so it flattens and it equalizes. I think those are the kind of jobs we will create.
Look at Lagos. We generate 730,000 tons of plastic and metal annually. Unprocessed, that's about 41 billion naira. When you process it, it rises to 63 billion. And apart from the financial gain, recycling, the waste sector, can create jobs. And we all know we need jobs in Nigeria. After agriculture, worldwide, recycling is the largest employer.
At the end of the day, the consensus is this: no nation truly achieves distinction by being overdependent on one commodity, and the path to national greatness for Nigeria truly requires economic diversification. And it's on that note we end today's episode of the program. You can watch the program again on our YouTube page, and you can interact with me via Facebook, email, or Twitter. I'm Shola Shayeli. Thank you for watching.